Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing a book haul and this is going to be a big one. So get prepared for potentially a longer video than normal. This book haul is bigger because I wasn't able to do, what month are we in? The July book haul. I had other videos that had to come out. So this is going to be a combined July and August book haul. And there are a decent amount of books in each. The July book haul was definitely a bigger one than I've been doing lately. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. We're gonna start with the July books and then shift over into the August books. So like usual, I'm gonna start with the pre-orders first, and then I'll get into the rest of the books that I bought. The first pre-order was A Little Luck by Claudia Pineiro. This is translated by Francis Riddle, and this is a highly anticipated book for me, as it is for many people, published by Consiglio Press. And I really want to read this because I loved Ernaux so much, and I have already been hearing good things about this so far. She tends to write crime fiction, and that's what this is. And this one follows a woman named Mary, and the plot is taking place 20 years after a previous incident. You don't know what the incident is going into the book, but I'm sure you might learn that early on, or maybe it'll be a slow build, who knows. And she's returning to Buenos Aires after 20 years, and has a lot of guilt, and the city has changed in a number of ways. She's changed in a number of ways, and I think it's her trying to kind of grapple with what happened in the past, as we're also getting to find out what happened in the past. So yeah, I'm excited for this one, and again, already hearing good things about it. So that is A Little Luck by Claudia Pineiro. Next up, we have the last book that I think I'll be receiving for my coffee house subscription for this kind of season, and that is The Plotinus. This is by Ducornet, and this is just a little slip of a thing. And this one is, I think, a very thinky novel. It's going to be good that it's short, I believe, but it follows a man who is out walking one day, and he is arrested by a robot called the Plotinus. And he is put in a prison cell that I think is at the bottom of a well or something like that. There's a single sunbeam coming into the well, and it's just him reflecting on his past life. Very introspective and thinky book. I think this is supposed to be an allegory, so I'm kind of going into it with that in mind. And it says it's supposed to be about tyranny, conviction, and the enduring power of imagination. So I'm very intrigued to get to this one, and that is The Plotinus. And the last of the pre-orders for the month of July is Down with the Poor. This is by Shumona Sinha, and it's translated by Teresa, Lavender, Fagan. This is published by Deep Vellum, and also an anticipated one for me. All the pre-orders, I'm sure you can guess, are anticipated for me. And this one is also very short. It is about a woman who is arrested one night, very similar already, because she assaults someone on a train. And it follows her in the prison cell thinking about what brought her to this moment where she assaulted someone on a train, which is something that she never could have imagined herself doing. And I know that she assaults a refugee, and I think this is trying to look at the refugee crisis, trying to look at asylum seekers and the internalized racism towards them. I also think this is supposed to be dealing with kind of the violence of the world in our current moment. So I'm very excited to read this. I think it will be hard hitting for sure, and didn't realize how closely these two were intertwined, but that is Down with the Poor. It's also supposed to be, hence the title, which is taken from the Baudelaire poem, which I know I've said before. It's supposed to be a take on class as well. So yeah, that is Down with the Poor. Next up, we're getting into the ones that I just bought for whatever reason. So we have Simple Passion by Amy Ernaux. This is translated from the French by Tanya and published by 7 Stories Press. I've already read this. It was in my wrap up for the month of July, but you're just seeing it now getting hauled. So I loved this. I thought it was fantastic. Very typical of her style, which is like that really sparse nonfiction. And yeah, loved it. Already read it. Check out my wrap up if you want to hear more, but it's all about her affair with a married man. And next up we have another one that I have already read. I read this in July. This is Kappa. This is by Ryunosuke Akutagawa, and it's translated by Allison Markin-Powell and Lisa Hofmann-Kuroda. It's published by New Directions. And again, check out my wrap up if you haven't already seen it and you want to hear more about it. But this follows a man who falls down a hole into the world of the Kappas, which is a mythological creature. And he basically starts befriending them. He lives there for a while, and each Kappa that he meets is sort of a stereotypical representation of a philosophical idea. And it's very much a satire in that way. So you have to go into it kind of ready to suspend your disbelief and kind of lean in to how archetypal all of them are. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's good that it's short. It kind of made it more succinct and powerful. Yeah, and that is Kappa. Next up, we have a book that I was in my favorite local indie, Queen Anne Book Company, which I've talked about many times before. And this was on display, and I was caught by the cover, but then drawn in even more by the synopsis. And that is Glaciers. Look at that cover there. This is by Alexis M. Smith, and it's published by Tin House. And this book takes place during a single day. It follows Isabel, who is a young single 20-something living in Portland, Oregon. She works at a bookshop that repairs damaged books, and it's her kind of musings about like a life unfulfilled, I guess, in her mind. She dreams about living in Amsterdam and kind of romanticizes that life, even though she's never been there. She has unrequited love for a coworker, things like that. And then over the course of this day, she starts to look into her past, and she starts remembering things about her parents' separation and a life-changing encounter that she has with a glacier, hence the title. And this is the sentence that really sold me in the synopsis. It says, it shows us how fleeting everyday moments can reveal an entire life. In classic movies, in old photographs and unsent postcards, in rare books and thrifted gems, Glaciers tells the story of a young woman's love of the past and a hope to make something new and all her own. I like these slice of life stories that feel very poignant and powerful. So I was a sucker for this, and yeah, again, love the cover. So that is Glaciers. This is also a debut novel, by the way. Next up, we have The Summer Book. This is by Tove Jansson, and it is translated from the Swedish by Tomas Teal, published by New York Review of Books. Now, I'm just going to get this out of the way really quickly. I have a bone to pick with New York Review of Books. I rarely buy them, and part of it is out of spite for this very reason. So you can see this, New York Review of Books always has this stylized cover on it with the box in the center, a photo around it, and it has the author and what should be the translator. It's already built into their cover design. But if they have someone who does an introduction that they think will sell more books than the translator, they will replace the translator name with the introduction author. And that makes me so angry. This has an introduction by Catherine Davis, and I just feel like you wouldn't be able to publish the book without the translator, and yet you're choosing to take them off the cover and replace them with someone that wrote an introduction, which is a nice addition, but not necessary to publish the book because you think it will sell more copies. And that really bugs me a lot, especially because it's already in the cover design that they would have 2 names listed here. So anyway, that's my little tangent for now, but yeah, so I rarely buy these, but I really want this book, and this is the only translated edition of it into English. So here it is, the summer book, and it's not Tove Jansson's fault that they did this, so I shouldn't take it out on them. But this book is all about summer, which is partly why I wanted to get it while we're still in the ends of summer here. This is told in vignettes, it says. I don't know, looking through it, how I feel about that, but it also has lovely illustrations in here. I'll show you a couple. And this tells a story of Sophia, who is a 6-year-old girl who is just starting to kind of awaken to existence, it says. So she's starting to discover all these things about life. I think there's lots of fantastic nature writing in here. And Sophia is also with her grandmother. So I like the duality of the age range in this as well, because it says that, you know, while Sophia is kind of opening up to the world, her grandmother is dying and at the end of her life. So that juxtaposition I think will be very interesting. And they are in the Gulf of Finland. And I think this is just supposed to be a very, again, slice of life story that shows all the like varied joys and sorrows of life is what it says on the back. So I'm into that, and I think this will be a lovely addition to my summer reading now that we're coming to a close. And yeah, excited to get to the summer book. Next up, we have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. This is translated by Schwartz, and it's published by Vintage. Transit Books has also published this, and I would have rather had that copy just to support an independent publisher, but this was the one that was at my bookstore, so this is the one I got. This cover is also gorgeous. The other one is too. And I wanted this book for a while now. I almost bought it last year when I was traveling on the East Coast, but I had already bought so many other books and I didn't get it, and I have regretted it ever since. So here it finally is. And this is a dystopian novel that is about a woman who emerges from a bunker with lots of other women, and she really has no idea about the modern world. So it's her coming out and trying to experience the world for the first time. And I think it sounds fantastic, and I've heard great things about it. So yeah, excited to finally be able to get to I Who Have Never Known Men. And lastly, for the July book haul, we have Fate by Jorge Consiglio. This is translated by Carolina Orloff and Fionn Petch and published by Charco Press. This is an older release from Charco Press. I think it's from a couple years ago. Let me double check. Yeah, this was published in 2020 by Charco Press. And this says that it's a novel that focuses on a group of characters who are all trying to take control of their fate in different ways. And they're confronting difficult decisions and trying to break out of comfortable routine. And I think this is all following characters who are falling in and out of love and relationships in some way. So there's Carl and Marina, who are a married couple, and I believe Marina starts to have an affair with someone else and their marriage starts to disintegrate. And then there's also Amer and Clara, who are meeting for the first time and starting a relationship and wondering if it's sort of like doomed to fail or if they're going to make it. So fate is an apt term for this. So yeah, I can't wait to get to this. It sounds very interesting. I wonder if the two couples' storylines are going to come together at all, but yeah, interested to see what this is all about. So that is the end of the July book haul. So let's quickly shift into August. So in August, I did some traveling, and when I travel, I always buy some books along the way. So firstly, I went to, what's it called? I think I have the bookmark that has the, there we go. So I went to Chicago, and there I went to Exile in Bookville. This is the bookmark there, which was a lovely store. I will be showing some of it in my next Sherlock Holmes vlog because I was reading Sherlock Holmes while I was there, so you can see the store in that video a little bit later on. But I got 2 books there. They were featuring Feminist Press at their store. They have a section at their store where every so often they feature a small or indie press. Last time, I think he said it was $2 Radio, which I know they have a personal relationship with, the bookstore owner does. And this time it is Feminist Press. So I got 2 books from Feminist Press, which actually was kismet because Feminist Press had a sale going on not too long ago. And I resisted buying anything in that sale, even though I very much wanted to. And then I was able to pick up the 2 things that I wanted most at this bookstore anyway. And these are the 2. So firstly, we have Sweet Lust. This is by Aja Bakic, maybe? And it's translated by Jennifer Zobel from the Bosnian. I know this author is from Bosnia, but they live in Croatia. And this is a short story collection. And this is speculative in nature. It has 11 stories that paints the irreverent portrait of a past, present, and future. So one of the stories is a dystopian world with no men, and women are rehabilitated at an erotic amusement park. There's one where climate change has caused a massive flooding and warming in the Balkans, and one programmer decides to build a time machine. And then there's also one with a devious reimagining of the sorrows of young Werther refocuses the center of a sexually adventurous Charlotte. So I'm not familiar with that story, but might have to read a little synopsis before I get to that one. And the themes that it says in here are really what caught my attention. It says that the themes are focused on human desire and fragility, repeating, framing pleasure as both inviting and perilous. So that sounds fantastic to me, right up my alley if you've been paying attention to the books that I've been reading in the past. So can't wait to get to Sweet Lust, and it's also a gorgeous cover. Next up, by Feminist Press, I got We Too. This is Essays on Sex Work and Survival. It's edited by Natalie West with Tina Horn. And this is exactly what it sounds like. So it's a collection of essays from people who are involved in a wide range of sex work. So this could include strippers, porn stars, cam models, hookers, all of the above. So any range of sex work you could think of, it's in here. And they're trying to expand conversations in the hopes of kind of providing better representation and understanding, but also reform that is needed within the industry as well. So very interested in this. Think it's going to be fantastic and can't wait to get to it. All right, then I was in Iowa, in Des Moines, and I bought a couple books while I was there. All 3 of these books were recommended to me by the lovely bookseller that was there when I popped in. And the store is called, let me grab the bookmark, Story House. There is the bookmark there. And he went above and beyond. He pulled 20 books for me based on a few things that I was currently reading, and said look through them, take photos, and pick the ones that sound most interesting to you. So I picked 3. The first one was one that I already knew I wanted. So when he pulled it out, I was like, okay, this is just my excuse to get it. And that is Monstrilio. I've been waiting to purchase this because I wanted to wait till it came out in paperback. This is the hardback, but he pulled it out and I was like, it's fate, to reference the earlier book. Monstrilio is by Gerardo Samano Cordova, and it is about a mother whose child dies, and she ends up taking a piece of his lung and sort of preserving it, and it starts to grow, and it grows into a creature who resembles her son, but is obviously different. And she starts to raise that creature, and there are collateral damage, let's say, that happens. And the story goes from there. I think it's a lot about grief and human connection, and I just am a sucker for that. I think this will also be a great read for October during spooky season. So that is Monstrilio, and this one is published, I should say, who is it published by? This is published by Zando. That is that one. Next at that bookstore, we got Mona. This is by Pola Olaksarek, and I'm sure I said that wrong. Olaksarek? Somebody please tell me if I am butchering that. This is translated by Adam Morris, and it's published by Picador. I have been humming and hawing about purchasing this for so long, and when he pulled it out, I was like, okay, I'll just take a chance on it and get it. And this follows a kind of gruff, tough narrator named Mona, who's a Peruvian writer, and she's sort of in a downward spiral of substance abuse, and she flees to California. And then she gets nominated for a literary award, and it's like the most important literary award in Europe, it says here. She leaves California for a small village in Sweden where she's with a bunch of other writers. And I think this is supposed to be poking fun at writer culture and some of the pretentiousness that can go along with writing. And I think she's with all male writers. She's also having a little bit of a take on sexism. I want to say I've heard that there are trigger warnings for this book, but I can't remember what they are. But yeah, I do think it is going to get dark. So that is what I know about Mona so far, and I'm excited to read this one. I do think it's a gorgeous cover. And the last book that I got at that bookstore is Frankenstein. This is by Jeanette Winterson, and it's published by Grove Press. I have seen this in the periphery before, but have never even thought about purchasing this. But when he gave it to me and I read the back, I was like, okay, this actually sounds right up my alley. Also, I didn't know that this was longlisted for the Booker Prize. Like the cover just does not scream Booker to me. So it says, as Brexit grips Britain, Rye, a young transgender doctor, is falling in love. The object of their misguided affection is the celebrated AI specialist, Professor Victor Stein. Meanwhile, Ron Lord, just divorced and living with his mother again, is set to make his fortune with a new generation of sex dolls for lonely men everywhere. Then it says, ranging from 1816, when 19-year-old Mary Shelley, famously who wrote Frankenstein, pens her radical first novel, to a cryonics facility in present-day Arizona where the dead wait to return to life, Frankenstein shows us how much closer we are to the future than we realize. Doesn't it sound so good? I think this is supposed to be like brainy and witty and darkly comedic, and it sounds like a wild ride. And I'm not sure if the future timeline is supposed to be a take on Frankenstein and his monster, because it is a doctor, and I'm not sure if it's like a take on the way that we can frame transgender people as monsters. I'm not really sure, but that's the vibe I'm getting from the back. And yeah, I think this could be very interesting, and excited for Frankenstein. Last two, we are so close to being done. The stack is getting very high. We have Ossibal. This is by Marit Kapla, and the subtitle is Voices from a Swedish Village. And it is nonfiction. It's translated by Peter Graves from the Swedish, and she's a chunker. I bought this used because this book is actually so hard to get in the US. I have been trying to get it for a while and have been having a lot of difficulty. Typically, I can order books through my local indie, but this one I was struggling with, so I bought a used copy. It's a little worse for wear, but I taped it up and tried to rehab it a bit. I've already started this. So who knows when I'll finish it. I'm still early days, but it's nonfiction that is all interviews that the author has done with people who are living in Ossibal, which is a village in Sweden. And so far I'm loving it. I think it's going to be like that restoration of faith in humanity, but not too saccharine or earnest. And I just love that. That is catnip for me. And yeah, I can't wait to read more of this. And this one is published by Alan Lane, which is part of Penguin Books. So that is Ossibal. And lastly, we have Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is a classic, of course. This edition is a Wordsworth edition. I think it's so lovely. And I saw this on sale at one of my local indies and just had to get it. I've been thinking about reading this classic for a while. I have not read it before. And I was very much getting in the mood for like a Jane Austen-esque tale. And I think this will do the trick for me. Because I know it is a woman who is like highly intelligent and progressive for her time, who finds herself in a love triangle. That just sounds so like what I want right now. Also, look at the back with the little sheepies and the bees. It's such a lovely edition. So I'm thinking I might pick this up very soon, but excited to finally get to this classic that I have not read before and for it to kind of like scratch that itch that I'm wanting. So that is Far from the Madding Crowd. And again, this is the Wordsworth edition. All right. So those are all of the books that I bought for July and August. Let me know if you have read any of these and what you think. And yeah, I will see you all in the next video very soon. Bye.